Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I will call the Budget, Finance, and Investment Committee to order. And we are here this evening to start our work on the 2013-2014 budget. And we do need the mayor here, don't we? Okay. Gentlemen, the minutes are not ready for approval, but we'll do that at our next meeting. As you know, we were given the overview of the budget at last Thursday's meeting by our finance director. Gentlemen, do you have any questions, or do we need to have any discussions about that overview before we begin our work this evening? We're just ready to dig in? Okay. We will begin with the individual department's budget, and for those of you who are here this evening, this is the process that we will follow. I will ask the department head for each department to join us at the table, and the mayor then will present his recommendation. If you need to speak to any of the specifics of your budget, please take this opportunity to do so. And tell us if you agree or disagree with the mayor's budget. The committee will have an opportunity, of course, to ask questions or to have any discussion that they feel that they need. Gentlemen, what has worked very efficiently in the last couple of years is for us to just do a voice vote for each of the department's budgets at the end of our discussion. Is that okay with you? Are we in agreement to do that same procedure? Okay. And good evening, Mayor Burgess.
Hello.
We'll give you a minute to catch your breath. And we are ready to begin with our budget review. And the winner of the lottery again this year is Dr. Payne. And gentlemen, if you will turn to page 19 in your notebook. Under tab 2. We'll be working in tab 2, and you need to be on page 19. Mayor Burgess, the community learning budget on page 19.
Okay. So Lisa and I should say before we start, when we get to these budgets, everyone knows full well that you're going to see some increases in our health insurance line item, which is typically line 205. So, okay, community learning. Do a wonderful job with this very small budget. There's really no increase here. This is a continuation budget right down the line, except for the increases on the benefits and insurance and the step raises that are built in.
Dr. Payne, your comments?
I agree 100%.
Move to approve, man.
Second.
Commissioner Jernigan, seconded by Commissioner Schaefer. Any further discussion?
That's why you win
And
the lottery.
graduation.
Yeah.
So, go ahead, take your vote.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, gentlemen. And graduation?
Graduation is
Friday at 11 o'clock. Everyone's invited. Right?
down right here in the courtroom.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, just a quick question. On the insurance, is it what that's in here? Is it what was approved in budget last week, or is it what was approved at insurance committee?
The budget was built on what insurance approved.
Okay.
What
Good point.
the commission, what budget committee approved will add 103,000. It's either 100. Well, I got it right here. Hold on.
It'll subtract one.
No,
Oh.
it adds.
Goes up.
It adds 103,700 to 101. It adds
Oh,
about
yeah, yeah.
4,400 to
That's what I was
Fund
doing.
116.
Subtracts for the
And about 18,500 to the ambulance fund. And Jeff will have to explain when we get there, what it does to his budget.
What are those breakdowns again?
103,700 to the general fund, 4432 solid waste, 18,532 ambulance.
That doesn't sound like enough money, so.
It's one half of the year.
I know, but one half of the year, we were.
School system's the bulk
School's
of
the
it
biggest,
though.
the big
There you
piece.
go, the school system.
Yeah, the
gets
school
big
system
part.
is 600,000-700,000 or something like that, probably.
That's the middle number.
Budget
Maybe not for
put it
half
up,
a year.
raise it higher.
Is,
Okay, gentlemen, if you will turn to page 1 in your notebooks, Commissioner Sandlin under tab 2, page 2, and we're just getting started. Excuse me, tab 2, page 1. This is the county commission budget. Mayor Burgess,
And there's no increase there, it's a few dollars, but it's the same budget.
Move to approve, man.
Commissioner Jernigan, thank you.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Pete. And Commissioner Jernigan. Commissioner Salmon, we decided to do voice votes to facilitate this process just a bit. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. That motion carries. Gentlemen, if you will turn to page 2, we are ready for the Board of Equalization, that part of the budget. Mr. Mitchell will join us. Mayor Burgess, your recommendation, please?
Okay, the recommendation is $20,930, basically up a couple of $1,000. We've got $2,000 more for board members' fees, and the likelihood that they're gonna have a necessity for a few more meetings of the Board of Equalization. That's about the extent of it.
Mr. Mitchell?
I concur.
Is that money that you will use, that extra money, or is that you'll only use it if you have to?
Only if we have to.
But next year's a reappraisal year, right? And the Board of Equalization will meet in June. And if things don't go right, $2,000 may not do it, right?
This
That's what he's asking for, move to approve.
Commissioner Jernigan, and seconded by Commissioner Jordan. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, gentlemen. Pages 26 and 27. This is the property assessor part of the budget.
Okay, these sort of have to be looked at together in some respects, in that if you look at the property assessor and the reappraisal, they've realigned the location of where their deputies are. So if you'll notice on line item 106, the property assessor, there's a decrease of $240,000. If you look over at line 1, same line item on the reappraisal program, it's an increase. So they've just repositioned where they're reporting those folks. All right, so that being said, we'll go back to the property assessors, and you can see that's a decrease from 1.875 million to 1.465, which is a $410,000 increase. Decrease. And 240,000 of that is just in the movement of those deputies. Data processing services, Mr. Mitchell, you may, I don't remember, but that line item 317 is $85,000 less on that budget, but it's 95 more on the other budget. So you may have moved those two items from one to the other as well.
Yes, sir.
So you can see that, and then there is a decrease in 709 of data processing equipment of about $51,000. So that accounts for that decrease on the property assessor's budget request, and that's our recommendation, $1,465,952.
Move to approve.
Commissioner Jernigan, thank you.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Bond. Any further discussion or questions on the property assessor's
Madam
budget?
Chairman, not exactly the property assessors, but Mayor, what are we overall looking, are we going to the back end as far as raises or anything, or what are we?
We're gonna, when you discuss this HR budget tonight, we're gonna give you an update, Ms. Stevenson will, on where we're headed with further consideration of the.
So right now, in all these plans, there's nothing there. It's
There's
just-
one
Step rate.
Just your one step that we've already-
Step rate is in every one of these budgets.
Okay. But that we've already pre-planned that.
Pre-planned
That
this,
was-
but we're gonna
Well,
ask you to continue to think about some other things.
there was a phase 2, and that's what Ms. Stevenson is gonna speak to.
Mhm.
But the mayor's recommendation on this first pass through was to just do the next step,
Okay.
to see where we were.
Gentlemen, we do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
And that part is not reflected in this, so that'd be on the end. That would, okay.
And you may or may not call, the insurance cost in here is what came down from insurance committee, not our committee.
Yeah.
So we're a little white on that if that holds through tomorrow night.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Gentlemen, pages 28 and 29, the reappraisal program.
There, did you tell them that there was a message?
Oh, yes, and you do have a letter from Mr. Mitchell at the beginning of that budget, right in front of your page 26. Mayor Burgess, your recommendation on reappraisal?
Okay. The reappraisal is an increase from 544 to 1.115. I've already pointed out the two primary reasons, that realignment of those deputies plus the data processing services that we have increased there for those costs. There were two or three other things that Mr. Mitchell might want to speak to, but postal charges, I suppose since this is a reappraisal, they're up 42,000, and a couple of other items, 399 and 709. There's some data processing equipment there, and I think that's probably listed under capital expenditures that they need to continue to spend. I don't remember what device that was or devices, but that $54,000. Lisa can probably tell us.
That's what it, under your pink tab, you skip past some pages. The way to look at that is the general capital needs. That was a 709.
Which tab are you talking
Pink,
about?
it's look in that three section, look
Behind the pink tab.
behind the pink tab. I just added some stuff that, if you'll just skip past those first few pages. It'd been great if I numbered this. It made sense to me when I just put it together. If you find a bolded 709,
Yep, and the reappraisal, that's replacement of this equipment for V5 conversion. That's $54,000 there to be able to accommodate their software upgrade.
Right, software, we have to buy particular hardware in order to accommodate it, which some of it we were able to do under this budget. Then we have the servers, we had to purchase servers in advance. One server, we didn't require the purchase of a new server because Brian Robertson discovered that it could actually be virtualized. So that saved us about $22,500 out of that.
Does that account for what's under line item 399, other contracted
not,
services?
this is just the 700 numbers.
Okay.
Is what I tried to give you details on.
Well, he mentioned that when he was running through these, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, data processing equipment on, under 709, that's a capital expenditure that's listed behind that pink sheet.
Yeah, 399, the other contracted services, did somebody say that's $30,000? Did that move from?
It moved from the assessor's budget. When we moved some of the services over from the administrators, I can call Ms. Blythe. Exactly what was that transfer right there on that? You're more familiar with that line item than I am.
Other contracted services, that's our program operating system,
Okay.
which is a cost of $85,000 per year. It was moved from line item 52,300 B17 to reappraisal.
Okay.
Mr. Mitchell, any other comments about the reappraisal program and that part of the budget?
I have no other comments, unless anybody has a question.
Do you agree with the mayor's recommendation?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
I do.
you.
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Jordan,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner P. Any further discussions or questions from the committee?
So, item 317 went up 10,000, but 399 went up 30,000, and that's really part of 317? Is that what the explanation is?
Repeat that again?
Item 317, we're under a reappraisal program, is $95,000. 399, other contracted services, is 30,000. And the way I heard that was that that's part of this, the system that's coming in, and that's why there's an increase?
Was the other, no, the other I believe the other contracted services may have been for hiring an outside, was that
That is
hiring the
correct.
outside expert? In the event we had to defend some appeals coming up in reappraisal,
Oh,
is what that was for.
okay.
I was confused there on that. So 317 is the transfer.
That's the transfer
in the software.
from the assessor's budget. So it's been 85,000, but there's a slight increase because of the equipment that's been purchased that's going to require
Okay.
additional fees. So it's added into that line item.
So, and then thus 399 is anticipation?
Yes.
Okay.
What do you say?
Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Thank you, that motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Mitchell.
Thank you very much.
Gentlemen, pages 3 and 4. The county mayor's bulk budget.
Do you agree with your recommendation?
Yes, we do. We'll point out just a couple of things. I mean, this line item 103 is the deputy to the mayor. That's a full year as opposed to the partial year that we had last year. Line 331, we put $30,000 in there because from time to time there are some miscellaneous legal costs that are nowhere else to be placed in the proper budget, so we're putting it here so we'll know about it in advance at least. We're having to pay them in their miscellaneous things, like defending or taking people into court for animal control, et cetera, is some additional costs that are nowhere else actually funded under the county attorney's budget or elsewhere. So those are really the only two primary changes. You'll see a few reductions otherwise, but that's the primary
The
differences.
the salary is the adjustment from the state.
Yes.
Yes.
I noticed that in the other one too.
It is.
so.
Yeah, on elected officials, there are increases of, I don't know what the percentage is.
Not all
0.6.
elected
4.
officials.
Constitutional
Not-
officer.
Yeah, that's exactly
constitutional
right.
officers,
4.6.
4.6 or 7%.
What has your office done for printing stationery and forms in the past? 'Cause there was
Well, what we-
zero.
Here's what we need to look at that. See, your 349 is $4,500. That's gone from nothing. If you go down to duplicating supplies, we've reduced that from 1,500 to 500. We've reduced the office supplies from 6 to 3. We've just put them in the proper category. So the net of all of that is,
All washes out.
it sort of washes out.
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Jordan, thank you.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Bond. Any further discussion or questions for the mayor? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Did y'all get your question answered on the 399 on the previous one?
We did.
Yes.
Yeah.
Got two different answers, but we still
The
have.
answer is consultant services
That's
to
it.
assist in appeals.
Yeah,
Okay.
in anticipation of the need for that.
Yeah, but my answer to that question was different from Commissioner Schaefer's answer to that question.
Okay, that's why I ran
I
to
may
get.
be slow, but I'm not
get
that
the-
Gentlemen, if you will turn to pages 5 and 6. Mrs. Stevenson, will you join us? We will consider the human resource portion of the budget. Mayor Burgess?
How are you?
Okay, this is a very, very effective and a very, very efficient budget in the department, and they're requesting a decrease from 286,000 to 264,000. And there's really, one of the primary significant things here with the change in their staffing and personnel, their insurance costs have actually down substantially so. But we're recommending $264,714.
Mrs. Stevenson, do you need to speak to any specifics of the budget?
Not unless there's questions. I agree with his recommendation.
How are the insurance costs down? How'd you do it?
Magic, she
Somebody-
hires people that already had insurance.
Or, maybe, yes. I went under my spouse's insurance. So, that's why.
Make a motion approved.
Commissioner Jernigan, thank you.
Second.
And seconded by Commissioner Key. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And you have some other information?
We'd like Ms. Stevenson to have an opportunity just to sort of give you a brief update on phase 2 of our plan that we want to talk about. We're not asking for you to make a decision tonight, we just want to continue this dialogue, and when we get a little further into the whole budget, we'd like for her to come back and even give some more detailed information, but just sort of bring you current, so this will be fresh in our thought process.
And this way also, if you have any questions that you would like for me to research or bring back to the future meeting, you can let me know, either, call me, email, or come by, and I can do that. If you all remember how we started on this journey is back in 2011, there was a recommendation to take the topped-out employees and give them a 1.75% increase, and Commissioner McAdoo recommended that during the budget process. And during that process, the commission said, well, we've not really done a study. We don't know if this justifies going with that 1.75% increase. And the commission asked me to do a salary survey. I coordinated the efforts with CTAS and also with MTSU. They had a master's level student who came in and assisted me with that efforts, and we did a survey out to some of the surrounding counties that were like-sized to Rutherford County government, just to get a good pool. We didn't really want to look at the public sector because public and private are two different entities, so we wanted to stay within what our group was, the same class of people that they were working with. So based upon this, we came up with a plan of some things that we needed to execute, and we wanted to do this into phases because there were several issues that we had. One is we determined in that phases that we needed to evaluate the employees to make sure that they were given proper credit for all their years of service with the county. And that was the majority of what we did last year. We came up with an evaluation process that looked at every employee, every full-time employee in the county, and said, okay, you've been with the county in these different roles. Did you get credit for all that service that you've been with the county, and where should you be appropriately on the table? We did that last year. Some of the things in phase 2 that we wanted to do was, we had mentioned that we, back in 2005, we took the table from 40 pay grades and we compressed it down to 14. Well, in that, some of the job titles were compressed into groups that maybe they shouldn't have been, or we found that they shouldn't have been based on our current survey. That might have been adequate back in 2005, but now it wasn't. So we wanted to expand the table from 14 pay grades down up into 56 pay grades. Now, there's not positions in every pay grade because, based on the salary survey, there may not be a job title that we have that's in that salary range. So we do have some pay grades that are vacant, so to speak. The other part was to take the positions and put them into their new pay grade based on the expanded table. So that was part of the phase 2. We were wanting to hold the maximum cap at $5,000, which is what we did last year, so there could be no more than $5,000 increase for an employee. And we also wanted to index the table due to inflation based on the current trends and the trends from last year. And this would help and impact the 141 employees that were topped out or are currently topped out. It would also increase them because when you index the table, you lift the entire table. So then it lifts those individuals who are topped out. It's not that it's putting them out of what their survey called for, but it is changing the table to meet the needs of cost of living. It's a COLA increase, for lack of a better way to say it. So those are the things that we're requesting in phase 2 for the salary survey. One of the things that Lisa put in each of your books.
It's in the front section, right in front of tab 1.
When we were looking at it, and she's put in here 2007-8 to 2000.
Well, this was what I was trying to show. The grade and step that you see on this first document is what is the basis that we've used since 2010, 2011. But I was trying to compare that table to the 2007, 2008 table. The difference between what we're our basis is today to what we had in 2007, 2008 is 2%.
It really goes back to 2005.
I know, but I just, from 2007, 2008, our base table has only been lifted 2% in total. So that's all that I'm trying to explain. That first 10 columns that you see on the left, you'll see these numbers again when you flip the page.
First 10 or first 14?
The first 10. It's grade down the side and 10
Oh, okay.
steps. Okay, so you'll see these numbers when you flip over, which those are the red numbers. This second table is what we did is to expand from 10 steps to 20 steps to try to give employees a step every year.
That's what we did last year,
Right.
this current year.
Right, this is our base table that we used. Now, no magic in here, that the in-between steps is just the average of either side.
And it was half. Before we were doing our biannual step increases every other year at 3.5, all we did was split the difference, so now every step is 1.75 in between steps. So there was no money added to the table that way, just splitting up their every other year to an every year. So that was.
So, and then to evaluate their time with the county to get people right and equitable. So this, flip the page, the red numbers are still there. So the base table, so this is the expansion of the table into the new steps. To go from the 10, takes 2 pages, to 56. Again, no magic here either in how it was allocated. If you look at, just because this is consistent, that pay grade 1, step 1, 19,790. The new step 2 is 3% more than the first one. Grade 3, new step 3 is 6% higher than grade 1. And grade 4 is 9% higher than grade 1. And then it starts again. So that's how we built the new table, pulling it apart, and then Ms. Stevenson used the data to then place them on this new expanded table.
So what happened is when the salary survey came in, and I'll just pick a custodian for an easy one. The custodian, whatever the survey data said, that person was supposed to make, then we plotted where they would be based on their median, and the median would be step 10, is the median salaries that we're looking for. So we polled the other entities and said, what's your entry, what's your min, your mid, and your max. And then your mid is what we did and worked our way backwards and forwards on each side. So you've got your mid in the middle. You go back this way, forward this way.
And the assumption is that the median employee, the median salary would be reached when somebody has 10 years' experience. That's kind of where the base started.
Where the indexing comes in with the table, which is part of the phase 2 that we were recommending, or I was recommending, was based on some things that have happened in the past couple of years. One of the things is in 2011, there was a 3.16, and in 2012, a 2.07 increase that went through on the state side, which was for their state employees, we're getting an increase, and it went up. And then as of March of this year, I'm misstating that, cost of living. I misstated that. Cost of living in 2011 was 3.16% up. In 2012, the cost of living was 2% up. And as of March of 2013, the cost of living was 1.5% up. So I misstated that. TCRS gave our retirees, because after they retire, they get a cost of living raise as a retiree. In 2012, they received 3%, and in July 1 of 2013, they're going to go up 1.7%. And all that's published. That's something that you could find on their website. So we were looking at the cost of increase that the retirees was getting, and also what the cost of living was, and adjusting that into it to say this is what our table needs based on a 2% lift over the last 5, 6, 7 years.
Well, this table here, take the employee loan, current top out.
It still tops them out.
Still tops out.
At 20 years.
At 20
That's
years.
step.
The top out's still the same number of years. It's always been 20. All we did when we expanded is that every year they get something instead of every other year. But the top out is still 20 years. So the only way once someone gets topped out is if a cost of living increase is indexed to the entire table, which lifts the entire table up, which is why I said the 141 people that are currently topped out, they would get an increase with this phase two because they would get their cost of living increase.
And
Wait a
since-
minute,
Are you saying the old table took 20 years?
Yes, sir.
And since 2007, that first sheet, we've only given 2 cost of living, or you might say table increases.
1%, 2 years.
1%.
2 1% increases, all they've had since 2007.
And the 20 years comes in play, it's 20 years of service. So if somebody comes in with experience credit, because we currently honor up to 5 years experience credit for anyone other than the assistant director or director level, and they can earn up to 10% based on their years' experience that they're bringing to the table. So it may not be that that person has been in that position 20 years, but they have 20 years of experience in that position.
Not 10%, 10 years.
Right. Yeah, 10 years, I'm sorry. 10 years experience credit.
Cost of living increase, but they've been in this step
They have-
situation, so it's not.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
2 questions. One, and this is from when I was in private industry, is the way it all, it generally went to. But a lot of times it's just a percentage increase. But in the case of a percentage increase, those that are down at the low level, they get less amount of dollars, so thus inflation, et cetera, affects them more than somebody making, much more, as long as you do the same average all the time. Now, one way it was explained to me years ago was that, those that make more, they have a different style of lifestyle, so that was the way it was explained on. But my other question, to a degree, maybe that's true, I guess, but some still need the basic increases for basically what's going on in the real world. The other thing is now the federal government's changing how they figure inflation using, they call it a CPI, which is a Consumer Price Index, but they're doing it differently than they used to because, you showed from the state of Tennessee for retirees that, and it may have been, I don't know if they've changed how they figure it, but it was last year, it was almost 3%, 2.5%, and this year it's 1.75, okay? Which, what the federal, I'm getting at is what are we gonna use? I guess the new thing that the federal government comes out with. The reason for that is it's gonna put smaller increases for Social Security, et cetera, like this, because it's gonna go, if the economy is down, well, then people are gonna look and, I'm gonna use an example that may or may not, aren't gonna buy a new car as much as they would look more at buying a used car because they don't have the money that they had before. So I guess, how would this, in your step 2, be affected from that?
Well, to index the table is something that we would have to look at annually. So, we would use the same data that we would use today to look at that on an annual basis. And as Lisa mentioned, since 2007, we've only indexed the table twice for 1% each for cost of living. So it's not that we've done that annually, and maybe that's one of the things that we need to look at closely, because that's how we get skewed and we get behind, is when the market is continuing to index, but we're not, then that makes us fall behind in what we're trying to do. So then you come up with the 3% all at one time because of the things that have happened in the past. Go ahead.
Talk a little bit about this. In other words, you've got this expanded table, which doesn't do anything to the table. It just puts more levels of grades in there. So we haven't changed the numbers that we had in place even right now.
When you're saying it doesn't change anything, the people that are topped out in the grades that they were in,
That doesn't help them. This
they're
does.
still topped out
They're
in
still
whatever
topped out.
grade they were in.
Unless.
But you said
Yes,
that.
it went up on the sheet.
Unless they got reevaluated. On the expanded table, currently somebody in a pay grade 1, we'll just say pay grade 1 for an example, based on the survey information, on the expanded table may go to the new pay grade 3. So that person topped out then would go to their new pay grade, because currently, if you look at your sheet, your last page where it says 1 and 2, the numbers in red are our current table today. The numbers in black are the expanded table. So the expanded table in the phase 2 part is we looked at the salary survey information and said, where should that pay grade 1 person be now? And there's, a couple of job titles in a pay grade 1. So some of them may go to the new pay grade 3, which that column that says new, that's the new pay grades that takes you from 1 to 56. To 56. So somebody who's topped out based on the salary survey information may go to a new pay grade. So
Well-
that would impact them as well.
And that's the number that you've been hearing, that we've been talking about. That first piece of phase 2, it would take $840,000
Well, these,
to put the people where we think they need to be placed.
Correct.
these people that you're moving there, is that from years of experience that they've had, or because they're doing a different job still within that pay grade?
It's because when the table was compressed.
If they're going from 1 to 3.
3. When the table was compressed, the table that you had before, years before I came, had, I think it was 42 steps, okay? It had 42 steps, grades. And whenever they compressed the table, they sent it down to 14 grades. Okay, so when you compress the table, some people got grouped into a pay grade that might have been a step or 2 above or a step or 2 below, a pay grade above or a pay grade below. I'm mixing my terms up. So before the table was compressed, they probably were in the right grade based on the salary survey data that they had at that time. But when we compressed it, it grouped some people together that really should have maybe been in their own group. So that's how people, when you spread it back out, it's going to move some of the people back where they go. Now, some of the people there's a few people that will be held because based on the salary survey, the people who were grouped in to a pay grade before, and now that it's spread out, may go down a couple of pay grades, and that did happen on a few of our job titles.
We're not gonna reduce anybody's salary.
No, we're not going to reduce anybody's salary.
You just said when it got compressed, some got pushed up, some got accelerated. Their salary got increased and it's not, we're not gonna take it away from them.
We're not taking any money
Yeah.
away. And the pay eval that we did last year, the system to look at their years of service in a position, some of the people were held last year because when we got down to putting it on there, it's like, how did they end up on step 10? They were really supposed to be on step 8. So there were a couple of people held last year because they were being paid in too high a step, and they were held until they catch up. And that would be the same scenario in this. If they're in a pay grade that gets reduced, they would be then held until they catch up. So we're not going to take away, but we're also not going to continue to move forward if they're already making more than the survey data says that they should.
What's the worst case on them catching up? As far as how many years? Is it 3 years, 2 years, 5 years? What is it
The
on?
ones I've looked at, 1, 2 years. I don't think there's anybody beyond 2 years that I saw.
I don't
And I
think
think in
so.
most cases it's just a year, so it wasn't like it was way out, but the fact was that there were some people that were in higher steps than they should have been.
Well, again, you're talking about a full commitment on the county commission that you're gonna have to stand behind year to year, and that's what some commissioners have not liked, is commitments going forward in front of them, even though we've got a numerous amount of them that we do. We have to keep funding the schools, we have to keep funding that's a commitment, but when they look at salary, commitments, is like, well, let's give a percentage increase and not do this other, and we back out, and that ain't right. So, I mean, we've got to, if we're gonna do this, then you said first phase, what is the
The
First
first
phase we did
wa-
last year.
was to go from every other year
To every year.
to every year.
And we reevaluated where they should be with respect to the number of years of service on here.
On their step.
That's what we're doing, have already done.
And if there
That was a lot of
So we're
cleanup.
talking about
We're talking about expanding.
840,000.
To expand this table and put the people in the proper location on this table.
Mhm.
Not necessarily lift the table, that would be another discussion.
Right.
And 1% to lift the table for the employee population is approximately 378,000.
Well, it
Well,
was,
that's
that
a-
was the number if we used this and lifted the table. When you move in here and lift this table, it's more.
It's more.
Well, without better terminology, all I can say is the cost of living increases, the feel good, okay, we can do something here at the end of the budget and we can do 1% or something like this. The commission has looked at that, and we've, you know, historically have really tried to take care of our employees across the board every year. And there's been some years though that we just don't have anything else. We can't do anything else unless we throw it to the taxpayers and, you know, do a tax increase. So, not just for that, but for other stuff too, so.
What she's proposing in discussing here with this expanded table, this reflects, when we make these changes, reflects these comparative analyses that we made with other jurisdictions. In other words, it puts us in a competitive marketplace, and we're not in a competitive marketplace on any number of our positions that we're trying to hire. So really, we need to take that step, and then you can discuss the step about lifting the table every year as we go forward. But the most important thing is to get this put in place so we've got everybody on equal footing with our competition.
And this was using their salary data for 2011-12. So now we're looking at 2013-14. And if we don't, you know, so now we're 2 years behind trying to implement phase 2 of salary data information from 2011-12. So we're, you know, indexing the table then brings you up into perspective.
I feel good about this in a number of ways. The major one, I think, is just a personal little deal. This work was done prior to us seeing insurance issues, because I think the employee is going to look, well, they're going to throw us a little money to make up the difference for our insurance problem, because we're getting ready to hit it, you know, on that, and there's going to be an increase. So we've got to do something to make up the difference, or do something else drastic. So I like the way this is put in place. This is, I think, the right thing to do.
I don't think you're looking like that. Well, if it's explained to him by his supervision, the new step plan, and he sees what he's gonna be in line with over time, he ain't gonna compare that to insurance. He's gonna be looking at what this plan's gonna tell him he's gonna get over here.
That's what I just said.
Well, you said
So
you
we
look
just
like
wanted
you're
to-
throwing him a little to pay for the insurance cause it went up. I don't agree with that.
We wanted to bring you more current with this discussion so that you'll be better equipped when you get a little further down the road in this discovery process.
We're not supposed to make a decision on this
Not
tonight.
tonight.
I do have a bit of a problem when we go out and look at the surrounding counties, because we're all, the surrounding counties, looking at one another, and nobody wants to be at the bottom of the list. So we look at Williamson and Wilson and Davidson and Sumner and all, and then we raise ours a little bit to try not to be at the bottom. Then they all look and say, oh, we're comparing to Rutherford. So the tail gets a wagging the dog before you get too far along, because everybody gets it's a vicious cycle. Everybody's pushing everybody up. So I think we ought to take care of our employees. But if they want to spend an extra $10 million in Williamson County, that's their own business as far as I'm concerned.
Where she's used utmost discretion in the counties we've been compared to, and believe me, we are not even close to comparing ourselves to some of the counties that are much higher. She's been very selective and prudent in that process.
Just trying to have a balance. You gotta have a balance on both sides.
Davidson County is not even in our comparative data.
Or
So,
Hamilton.
Or Hamilton.
Knox, Shelby. So if there's any questions that you would
Grundy,
like for me to bring
Cannon,
back, just
White.
let me know and I'll bring the data back to you.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, if you will turn to pages 7 and 8 in your notebooks, we will look at the county attorney's portion of the budget. Mr. Cope, good evening. Mayor Burgess, your recommendation?
Okay, $259,000 is a recommendation. Really, this is the same budget we've got in place this year, and there are no changes.
The only difference is, and the mayor already spoke to it earlier, is that we amended 331 legal services along the way for those things that came through this year that were more litigation. And so we pulled that out of this budget and put it in the county mayor's. That was that 30,000 that we had discussed earlier.
So
Mr.
what-
Cope?
Go ahead.
I don't have anything to add. I concur in the mayor's recommendation.
Commissioner Sandlin, did you have a question?
Legal services, we had,
if you remember, this budget, the amended budget right now is 335,000, but it started at 259,000. We added to it.
So we're starting back where we started last year.
Yes,
Right.
That's right.
Yeah. Depends on how many lawsuits we get.
Right, and we're accounting for the lawsuits in the county mayor's budget.
And this is just strictly legal services. This isn't all the other stuff.
No, it's not the outside legal.
Right, this
Yeah.
is the internal legal
It's
services.
just
for the most
this is
part.
routine services.
Mhm.
I make a motion to approve.
Commissioner Jernigan,
Second
thank you.
motion.
Seconded by Commissioner Sandlin. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Opposed?
No.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, question. In this book, we used to have a place that told us how many people were in what department.
It's in
We
here.
It
we
is.
have it. It's in there.
That's what, do you know where it is?
At the front,
It's in your front
it's
pages there.
behind the overview.
Yeah, if you'll just,
The very front.
These tenants.
you got it?
As we come to any budget that has an increase, I'll point that out to you.
Gentlemen, let's continue. Pages 11 and 12. I'm sorry, pages 9 and 10. I apologize. Pages 9 and 10, the Election Commission. And Ms. Lester is already here and ready to go. Thank
We're
you.
recommending $800,443, which is about $14,000 less than this year's budget. They have given us a very prudent budget, and I really think there's little to really say about it except just that. There's a little less, I think, on election workers because maybe there are a few less elections this go around, so that's the primary reason they've been able to save some dollars.
A large amount of our budget typically is the labor dollars required to hire poll workers. And this upcoming fiscal year will be our two smaller elections, that being the Murfreesboro City election and the potential for a May County primary.
Move to approve.
Commissioner Jernigan
Second.
and seconded by Commissioner Sandlin. Any
On
further
the-
discussion or questions?
Line 719, office equipment, $8,000. What is that?
Let's see, we're requesting some funds to add some shelving in our warehouse. And we are out of filing cabinets for our voter registration cards. Those cabinets that we use are not your standard 2 or 4 drawer filing cabinets. They're a specialty item that is 7 drawers in a cabinet. They're about 5 feet tall and they're divided down the middle. They're about $1,300 a piece, and I have found them as inexpensive as $950. So we are going to require at least 3 additional cabinets to store our voter registration cards.
Have you got an increase in voters that are registered in this county now?
When I started this job 2 years ago, we had a little over 140,000 registered voters, and since then we've gone up to almost 160,000 registered voters. Largely because of the presidential election this past year. We always have an increase in registrations on presidential election years.
Gentlemen, we do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion relative to this budget?
One other quick question. How long do you keep say if somebody's lapsed, do you keep those in this file here or do you get rid of those?
There are certain provisions under the law. If someone registers to vote and they do not vote and they do not contact us in any way by changing or updating their address, then after 2 November federal general elections have passed, the following year, which will be this year for us, will purge, the ones who are already inactive will purge, but the ones who have just registered and haven't voted for 2 federal elections, which could be anywhere from 3 to 4 years before we get to do that, then those individuals will be made inactive, and by law we're required to send them a mailer notifying them of their inactive status with a postage prepaid card contained in that. That gives them an opportunity to then fill that out and send it back to us, which will then reactivate their status. If they do not respond to that confirmation notice of inactivity, then you go another 2 November federal election cycles, and then they're purged. Once you purge that voter, we're required under Tennessee state law to maintain those records for 24 months. So we have to keep those for 2 years even after they're purged.
So it's almost 4 years and then plus another 24 months.
Well, no, you're talking up to 4 years, up to another 4 years, and then another 2 years. So it's
Up to
a
10
long
years.
time. That's right.
Okay.
We have 3 sets of filing cabinets that we use. One is for the purged voters, one is for the inactive voters, and one is for the active voters. So right now we have approximately 15,000 inactive voters, and we're about to make another 18,000 inactive this year by sending out those confirmation cards. Once we do that, we have to pull out all 18,815 cards that are filed alphabetically in the active filing cabinets and move those over alphabetically to the inactive filing cabinets. And then if they contact us back and reactivate, we have to go pull their card back out again and move it back to the active cabinet.
What if someone passes away?
We get death notices. We can, by Tennessee law, we're permitted to use obituaries as proof of someone having passed away, if in fact we know that that is the voter. You know, if we have a John Smith and we have 30 John Smiths registered, we're probably not going to purge based on that obituary. But if we have someone that we know who it is and we know that voter, we can purge based on obituaries. But in addition to that, the Tennessee Department of Vital Statistics provides reports to the state election office, who in turn provides those reports to us on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. So we're constantly purging based on not only deaths, but felony convictions, citizenship issues, and so on.
All right, thank you.
Gentlemen, we do have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Quick,
Thank you.
quick question, not to do, does the Vote-Mobile use diesel fuel?
It does.
It does, but it didn't go anywhere this year.
Well, we filled up right before right before last year. So the air conditioner is broken on the bus, and it's like an oven in there in the summertime, and the heater doesn't work very well in the winter either.
It works in the summer.
That's right, and it's free.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, pages 11 and 12, Register of Deeds. Ms. Dalbarn, hello and welcome. Mayor Burgess, your recommendation.
Okay, the recommendation is $1,126,000, which she has managed to reduce her request by about $174,000. Those 2 line items that make up most of that is $317 on data processing. That's reduced about $70,000, and $709, the data processing equipment's decreased about $110,000, which makes up most of the reduction, in that she's been able already to put in place the use of the provision of some new equipment, et cetera. So she's already done that, so she won't be doing it again. But all of those, that was funded anyway out of her fees, special fees that come forward to allow her to provide data processing equipment, et cetera. So saying all that to say, it's pretty much a continuation budget and a very efficient request with those 2 major reductions.
I do have one change, and I apologize for it. I got an email today from our service provider on line 317. We need to change that number to $39,129. They had made a mistake in their calculation of their service agreement. And this is based on, we'll be upgrading our server next year, and in so doing that was going to change it, but we're not going to be able to do that July 1, so we have to prorate that starting in next year. So we're going to need to raise that to $39,129 from the $38,555.
Okay, so that adds $8,274, so it's
Mhm.
$1,134,357.
1,134,357. That's the recommendation.
Yes.
Ms. Dalbarn, do you agree
Yes, I
with
agree
that
with that
recommendation? Okay.
recommendation.
Move to approve.
Commissioner Jernigan, thank
Second.
you. Seconded by Commissioner Jordan. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Thank you very much. Pages 13 and 14, Planning and Engineering. Mr. DeMasi and Mr. Corbett, good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Mayor Burgess, Planning.
The recommendation is $705,050, and you can see that's about a $47,000 decrease, and largely that decrease is made up by the fact that we're eliminating one of the planning positions, which is giving us this savings, and everything else is pretty much a continuation of routine cost. I don't think there's anything else of any real significance on any of the other line items, is there, Mr. DeMosi?
308's done, consultant line item, we're done with that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
We should finish up that before the end of the fiscal year, as far as payment at least.
Right.
I mean, we're pretty much in the phase of the subdivision regulations now, where we're just working through the draft.
And we've got some data processing equipment this year. We haven't had any last year, of 15,000, so that's the recommendation.
Gentlemen,
Make a motion to approve.
Commissioner Sandlin, thank you.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Jordan or Commissioner Jernigan. Any further discussion or questions for these gentlemen? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Gentlemen, turn to pages 89 and 90 for the stormwater portion of the budget. 89 and 90. Mayor Burgess?
Okay, the stormwater, this is an increase in this budget from 158,000 to 216,000. The primary addition here is for one additional assistant to help with the engineer to enforce all these stormwater requirements that we are required to do. In other words, you can see on 189, is that where we put that one additional employee? There's one additional employee there. We've had discussions with the highway department in that the public works department has 1.4 something pennies in it. So we're taking a tenth of a penny
Yeah,
out
one
of
penny.
their budget and transferring it to county general to be able to fund this position. So that's how we're funding it. So it's really not any new money going to be required, but we need this position to be considered as we go forward. Mr. Corbett, was there anything else of significance?
The only other thing we had in there is we do have some money to buy a piece of, it's a Trimble piece of equipment that this inspector uses in the field. So other than that, everything else is the same.
So the 216,375 is the recommendation.
Did county road superintendent, he agreed taking it out of the?
Yes, sir, we got his consent before we suggested doing this.
Since this is one of the departments that got a new position, how do you decide that a new position's warranted? I guess another way of asking the question is, how did we get by without the position last year?
Federal law put all this in. Explain it to him, Dave.
Well, there's a couple reasons. Up until this year, we were utilizing a member of the codes department to do what this individual's gonna do, inspecting and stuff. And David Jones lost a position last year, and so he came to us and said, I need to have my man back full-time to doing code stuff. So at that point in time, then our engineer who does all the major stuff of the program, all the meetings and stuff, and keeping up and putting the new requirements in place, ended up also doing all the inspections and stuff, and so he was basically doing two people's job and was having a difficult time keeping up with it. So I requested an additional person to do our inspections and stuff to help out our engineer. And the program will continue to expand, and there'll be some new requirements for next year also.
And y'all heard the bad news, didn't you? That Mr. Corbett's leaving. Told us, popped it on us. We was gonna put a motion to deny it, you know, at Planning Commission Monday night, but,
Yeah, I'm retiring. I'm, been working 50 years. I think I'm gonna sit down at the end of June. We're also gonna lose our, Todd Sullivan that's moving to Alabama, so we're losing our co-warning engineer. We gotta replace him also.
Make a motion approved, budget.
Commissioner Jernigan, thank you.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Jordan.
But denial of the retirement? We're gonna miss him. He's a good one, let me tell you. Both guys, we really are gonna miss you.
Appreciate it.
I know you're gonna wanna jump into next year's budget with us, and help do that.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
I agree with you on 50 years. Same situation.
Gentlemen, page 15 is just a very small budget for a state office, and Mayor Burgess, I think we just paid the telephone for that office, is that
Yeah,
correct?
that's the
This is,
the person that issues permits for our septic tank, et cetera. This is just for the telephone charges for that one office. That's all that is, $600. All the other costs for that office is in the planning department.
Planning, yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, it costs something to have
Yeah.
an office space for them.
Yeah. And we do get some rent for that office.
Yeah, the
space. They
state
get
pays us rent
They pay us
anyway.
rent, a small amount of rent.
Motion to approve.
thank you,
Second.
Commissioner Peace. Was that Commissioner Schaefer? Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. County buildings, pages 17 and 18. Mr. Mankin. Good evening. Mayor Burgess, your recommendation, please. County buildings.
Okay, the recommendation is $1,983,663. That's about $100,000 more in current budget, and that's in a few items. And I guess one in particular is 169. Line item 169, that's 250,000. Quite honestly, we sort of made a mistake last year in that budget, and we had to amend into there more money because we didn't have all the proper people actually identified that was in that part-time personnel line item, so we actually need that much money even now. Let's see.
309.
309.
309.
We need to make an adjustment for that. That's one that we just amended in our last budget meeting. And this was the one to pay the City of Murfreesboro's Civic Plaza and garage expenses and the landscaping. So that 82 needs to be 97,000. And then 399 is another line that we had to adjust to 91,000. So the new number here is 1,999,663.
Okay.
Well, you did it. You stayed under $2 million.
You got $337 a month.
Okay, it's under the pink, it's the right.
All right, I want to point out one thing for your consideration and further deliberation as we get a little further down the road. There's a piece of paper, the first piece of paper after the
Right
pink-
after the pink paper.
Right after the pink paper. Before we go there, we have under building improvements, we've only got $125,000 in that budget, or that line item, okay?
Sorry about that, yeah. You didn't mention.
But if you'll notice on this insert that we have here, building maintenance, building improvements, that we potentially going to need, if we stay across the street in this current judicial building, continue to occupy the old bank building and the coin building, we need to spend another $503,000. I did not put that in the budget this year. If we do elect to continue over there for the next 5 years or so or more, we're gonna have to come back and amend our budget. If we're serious about staying there, it's gonna take another $500,000 to bring that building up to reasonable levels so that we can use it properly. So that's not in the budget. I just wanna say if we don't decide to go forward with a reasonable time frame of replacing that operation over there, you're gonna be faced, we must continue to to do those things. It's gonna make that building properly usable and have the proper security, et cetera. So I just want to point that out. It's not in the budget. We're not gonna put it in there until you guys help us decide where we're going. We may not put it in that period, but we're gonna have to amend it into the budget, because we're gonna have to make these improvements.
Under that line item, then all you putting in is 125.
Yes, sir. That's just for other miscellaneous needs.
And he's listed out those things that he's anticipating doing.
Those are just those things are on that same piece of paper.
Well, the $500,000 though, it could come from the development tax, correct?
It could,
If
we
it's there.
have it, if it's
Yeah.
there. I mean, there are other capital needs that could use up all that we have and more, but yes, it potentially could. That's just a side note that I want to be sure you're clear on, and we'll have that discussion as we go forward. We had the beginning discussion about this with the property management committee, but that's about as far as we've gotten.
In 309, we asked in the budget last week that, the breakdown on that stuff that y'all.
That's what I gave you.
It's right
Pass
there.
it around.
So-
There it
It was,
is.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's right there.
The last page, it's got it somewhere.
Mr. Mankin, would you like to speak to any part of your budget?
No, ma'am, I concur with the mayor's recommendation.
Move to approve.
Commissioner Jernigan, thank you.
Hey, go ahead, I'm just gonna look at it.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Jordan. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
I'd say maintenance.
Mr. Lodell,
That's the electric.
the archives portion of our budget is on pages 20 and 21.
Cover a lot of the side this way.
Good evening.
This is from the city on that.
Mayor, just to be clear, his budget under this page, right in front of tab 1, the number of employees is under maintenance, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
We just want to make sure we were looking at the part-time.
The biggest majority of his folks are
Are
part-time.
Right.
Mayor Burgess, pages 20 and 21, Mr. Lodell's budget.
I guess I could say this without hesitating. The most efficient department we have in the county.
Thank you.
$115,404, which is a substantial reduction, but the reduction largely is that we completed at least the second phase of putting in additional shelving, and that's all finished, so there's $77,000 less this year in that budget because we're not buying any more shelving material at this time, so that's the recommendation.
Mr. Lodell, do you need to speak to any part of the budget?
No, and I agree with the mayor's recommendation.
Move
No,
to
you
approve.
You
Commissioner
requested $30,000 in data processing, the mayor did not.
We put that in somebody else's budget.
Okay.
Gentlemen, we have a motion from Commissioner Schaefer, seconded by Commissioner Jernigan. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Lodell, just curiosity, in a 6-month period, how many come out to the archives building? You have any ideas?
Yeah, we keep numbers. We probably have visitation in the ballpark about 3,000 people a year. And that doesn't include all the inter-office contacts that we have physically and on the phone and via email.
Okay. Thank you.
Gentlemen, if you will turn to pages 22 and 23, we are ready for the risk management portion of our budget. Mrs. Stinson,
Have it, yeah.
good evening. 22 and 23, Mayor Burgess.
Recommendation is $1,148,017. You can see that's up about $30,000, most of which is actually in insurance premiums we're paying in line item 506. That's up $23,000. So beyond that, it's pretty much the same budget going forward.
This budget is funded in part by the OJI program and the insurance program.
Okay.
Mrs.
I
Stinson,
just
do you
said
need to speak?
There's revenues that
there's
come in
okay.
to support this budget.
Do Do you need to speak to any part of the budget?
No, ma'am, I agree with the mayor's recommendation.
Move approved.
Commissioner Jernigan, thank you.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Schaefer. Questions or further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Pages 24 and 25, the budget for the finance office. Mayor Burgess, your
Okay,
recommendation?
The recommendation is $1,118,284, which is about $70,000 more. And most of that is in two particular areas. And we'll call your attention to line item 119 and line item 189. And Mrs. Nolan and her finance department we have a couple more retirements. And Mrs. Nolan in particular needs an opportunity to have enough overlap here so that we can transfer this wealth of knowledge that's stored up in a couple of people's heads and files. So that's the reason we have that $30,000 increase up there on 119, is to have an overlap with the process.
And two, these are, I have two employees with about 74 years of knowledge that we'll be losing. Y'all alluded to it, I didn't know that y'all could vote and that it couldn't happen, so if that was, I would appreciate that y'all would do that. But both of these are long-term employees, and they will be maxed out on their leave, and so that's built into the budget, is those payouts.
You might be giving away some ages when you say 74 years of experience.
That's my two
I know, but still.
It's my two longest employees.
And we're going to miss both of them immensely. No question about it.
They are treasures.
I don't think anyone has the capacity that Ms. Elaine here has with all these minutes and all these documents and resolutions that she prepares for Joyce to read. It's pretty
And a
astounding.
perfect example, Mayor Burgess, is when they get the minutes of our last budget meeting.
Oh, yes.
25 pages.
I
you
will
have
say
to read.
we had hoped that we had her wavering about not until that happened. It was like, oh my gosh.
Okay.
Over them for Steve.
And the overlap is .33
It's
new
at-
employees, is that what the .33 means?
The .33 is asking to bring somebody in October to have 2.5 months of crossover training. It's not enough. I'll make it work.
I can motion to approve the budget.
Second motion.
Commissioner Jernigan, seconded by Commissioner Sandlin. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Gentlemen, if you will turn to page 30. This is the county trustees portion of the budget. Mr. Beatty, good evening.
Good evening. I guess karma finally hit. You're not at the top of the line.
I'm not
Cliff
first.
this time.
Never on this meeting.
He's always the first of the agenda at every meeting, and he's down in R this time. So. Paying your dues tonight, I guess.
That's right. It's all right.
Mayor Burgess, your recommendation, please.
The recommendation is $626,050, and you'll notice there's only one line item with any increase that's noticeable. There's a $2,400 increase on line item 317, so that they can continue to have the service of people paying their bills online, I believe. So that's the recommendation.
Mr. Beatty?
I agree.
So moved, Madam Chairman.
Commissioner
Second.
Sandlin, seconded by Commissioner Jordan. Any discussion or questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Thank you very much. Pages 31 and 32. County Clerk, Mrs. Crowell. Good evening.
Good evening.
Pages 31 and 32. Mayor Burgess, your recommendation,
The
please.
recommendation is $2,347,015, and that's an increase of let's say $30,000. One of the increases is, if you'll notice, is up in our deputies. That's the normal increases on that group of folks, plus one additional employee is added to the clerk's office, and I think she can explain exactly where that person may be going. Let's see, is there anything else of significance? The insurance is up $40,000 just in her department alone, so that's a big piece of this increase. And there are other attendant benefits, of course, that go along with the increase in the cost for the deputies. But beyond that, there's not much other, unless Ms. Kroll can point out something. There's $10,000 more in office equipment that she's asking for, and she can explain that to you.
Okay.
See, I've got 18,300 on 719.
13,000.
Oh, is that a 13? I had-
13,300.
I've marked, there's only $5,000, so you only have to account for $5,000 more. But anyway,
That is, for security camera systems in Smyrna.
On office equipment.
Not on the office equipment,
Okay.
right?
That's,
719.
I've actually got that in there.
yeah, that's where she's put that.
That's where I put it. For Smyrna, and adding the 4 additional cameras for the Murfreesboro office.
Now, we're adding 1 deputy, but we're also up in part-time, because last year's budget was 10,600, although the prior year was 23,800. So we're adding some part-time and?
No.
Am I looking at that wrong?
Well, when I took,
We got 17,555 down there.
I think it.
Amended budget's 10,600, though.
Yeah, it increased to that, not new, but more hours.
Okay, we're adding more hours.
To the.
Plus a
more-
deputy.
More hours to the part-time.
Okay.
A lot of times we had a full-time employee, we pull it out, we justify it by saying we can cut our part-time to offset that, but we're not able to do that in this situation.
and adding a full-time employee, I can tell you, my Smyrna office has 9 employees. And my understanding is that is the same number that they had 10 years ago. And with the population growing, they're just working on a skeleton crew.
They've got great efficiency going, it sounds like.
They've been very efficient for a long time.
I was gonna say, you can get through there pretty quick, because I've gone there several times myself.
Been up there recently, and it's amazing. You just see them go right through the testing center and pull right over into get the tags or stickers right from there.
You don't go right through the testing center, though.
No, it's a lot quicker up there to get the tag than it is to go through the testing center.
Just experience it, and it was nice.
I'll ask you the same question I asked Mr. Corbett. This is a new deputy for the Smyrna office. How have you gotten by this year without that person?
It's been rough. They've been asking for 2 years. I've been asking them to hang with me until I could see that there was a real need, and I've seen it. So I'm asking for them.
Long lines during parts of the day?
Oh, yes. Well, you take into consideration, my office waits on the general public, and my employees as well need lunch. So when does people want to come during lunch? It's a little frustrating when you go in there and you see vacant windows, because they're at lunch as well. One more, I think, would help offset that and make it an easier flow during those long times, and at the end of the month, and the first of the month.
So you won't need them in the middle of the month, then, is what she's saying.
Oh, yeah, I will.
They work a week a month.
Yeah.
3 days of the
Yeah.
first, 4
Someone
days.
said to me yesterday, "Oh, you were slow today," and I said, "No, we were busy. We just wasn't lined out the door." So,
But has there been an increase in titles and vehicle tags, et cetera, this year versus 2 years ago, or?
the numbers keep going up.
Okay.
The numbers keep going up.
Increasing.
We do have an increase
And what?
on your fees.
We think her fees, I think we do have a revenue projection to show they're increasing, which would
We
reflect
used to
the
get
number of
those of
tags
public
we're being
safety
issued.
every month, but since things changed, we don't get that anymore, so that's why.
Madam Chairman, we didn't hear if she's good with it, but I'm good with it. I'm gonna make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Salmon, seconded by Commissioner Jernigan. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Are you good with it, though, Lisa?
Yes, I agree with the mayor's recommendation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, page 16, the Geographic Information Systems portion of the budget. And we have Mr. Robertson and Ms. Barbara joining us, and Mr. Moore, right?
Flower every 4 years, comes every
Page
year.
16, Mayor Burgess, GIS.
Okay, the recommendation is $1,140,940, and that's a little under a $50,000 increase. And that increase is really sort of tied up in 3 line items. 317 is up 14,000, data processing services. 709 is up 60,000, that's data processing equipment, and other capital outlay is a decrease of $42,000. So those are the 3 primary changes, and you can see above, as always, we've got the insurance, et cetera, but these are the main things that have changed, and I'd have to let them address those in specific, but in any event, that's the recommendation, $1,140,940.
Mr. Robertson?
I was just gonna say that it looks like an increase, but from the original budget, we have amended $81,000 out of this budget and put it in the 52,600.
That's correct. Oh, okay, so the $1,092,000 is down by 81,000, so really it's.
It's an increase of 48,000 of the original
So
budget.
it's a decrease from the original budget.
Yes, it's a decrease of the original
From
budget.
the original budget,
of
this
32,000.
recommendation is.
709 had $81,000 in it, which we amended last month to go into the 52,600 general OIT budget for those things that we explained last month.
Okay.
Are you still working with the sheriff on OIT issues, or is he pretty well on his own there?
Pretty well on their own now. We still assist quite a bit with geographic information systems, actually, and they have some GIS skill and expertise there in-house themselves, but we work probably more closely with them in terms of GIS than we do general IT these days. They use the data that is being purchased in this budget.
Motion, sir.
Commissioner Jordan?
Second motion.
And seconded by Commissioner Sandlin. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And if you will move to pages 33 and 34. Information technology or data processing. Mayor Burgess?
Okay, the recommendation is $2,527,657, and that's an increase of $358,000. And there are 5 or 6 line items here that need to be pointed out, and they can explain in some detail, but there actually is a decrease, and Brian will have to remind me. 121 is $20,000 less, sorry, not 20, it's $10,000 less on data processing personnel, but data processing services, 317 is up 23,000. That was 307, communications up 23,000. 317, data processing services up 32,000. There is a substantial increase in maintenance agreements at 334, it's 103,000. And the big one on data processing equipment of 222,000, which makes up more than the 358 if you add up those numbers. It's in excess of that. So that's the primary changes, and Mr. Robertson can address those in any detail that you wish him to address. In other words, the bottom line is we're way behind on keeping up with technology. We've had their budget so tight for so many years, but you can address that.
I just assume you go over 307, 317, 334, and 709.
Very good, very good. And that's what we'll do.
But is communication, is that the phone systems? Is that
It
the major
is.
part? And But if you've mentioned about looking around at other places, have we made any, to see if anything's better than AT&T? And if it can be used, I guess, is the biggest thing, right?
Yes, whether or not it can be used and what issues it would cause to be running two networks concurrently. It's pretty fundamental to think of that. A lot of the reason for the increase in communication is a increase to our internet data circuit, so that hit that. Us and EMS and I believe the Sheriff's Office all have issues in 307 communication because of some increases to the data circuit cost and telephone circuit cost that have affected, as Mike Nunlin reported, all the municipalities. Is there anything else we need to cover there in communication to explain that, Darren?
Just that we've increased like you said, the internet capacity. We had to increase our bandwidth getting to the internet, and have had to upgrade some other circuits to take advantage of that increased pipe.
Now, is that internet, does that also cover the sheriff's department?
It does not. It does not. It covers all departments except the Sheriff's Office. And there are several data circuits in there that really are departmental data circuits. Any facility that contains more than one department, their data circuit costs are reflected in our 307. Keep rolling.
Keep rolling.
You want to explain data processing services there, Darren?
Yeah,
Is this line 317?
Line 317,
Yes,
yes,
ma'am.
The increase 32,000 on that one. A big part of that is we're looking at possibly 35,000 for running fiber to our maintenance and archive buildings. It'd be one run that would connect both of those buildings back to the courthouse, which will offset their DSL circuit that they currently have now. And with Mr. Lodell and Mr. Mankin both utilizing more database type software, they would like to be able to put it on the courthouse storage array, which given their current circuit, it would be so slow they wouldn't be able to use it. So one of the things that we wanted to do was trying to increase their bandwidth ability by running fiber down to their office, which I think John or Mr. Lodell have been asking. We've been talking about this for 2 or 3 years, possibly doing that, because we knew at some point his storage needs were either going to be upgrading his servers or trying to get him a better connection back to the courthouse.
I can see that in archives, but what's going on with maintenance that he needs that much data?
Maintenance, well, for one thing, his maintenance database that he has doesn't get backed up. It's literally sitting on his machine at his office. So any of the work orders that get submitted sit on that machine. If his machine crashes, there's very little that we can do to try and get it back up. By moving his data up to our courthouse, it's backed up every night. It's on redundant arrays so that he wouldn't lose any of that information that he has about air conditioning systems, different building systems around the county.
Sitting on a PC right now.
Yeah, literally sitting on a PC.
So some of that information definitely needs to be archived. So.
Okay.
And that's the $30,000 that you were asking about that was in the
That's
archives
Lodell's
budget that we took out of their
Yeah,
budget.
moved
because we
over here, yeah.
Wanted to put it into all of this to properly manage it.
We can't sufficiently back our stuff up either at the archives. We really need to get it back up here at the courthouse via fiber.
Yeah, I think actually now you're having to use an external hard drive.
It's not pretty.
No.
Well, we've done it for years, but it's not pretty.
Keep rolling there, Darren. Let's see.
Also, they've increased the maintenance on one of our storage arrays, and that's reflected in part of our increase. We've had some small decreases in some other areas. We've moved some stuff around that we're not having to actually pay a full maintenance on, but to offset some of that cost. And we also, that EMC storage array that we're having to pay $50,000 on that got increased for the maintenance is the one that's located, or going to be located at the state data center in Smyrna for disaster recovery purposes.
It's over $100,000 for the maintenance agreements. That's why really, I was asking about that. Is there, what other new ones are there or something? Is there, I mean,
Symantec has, we've started doing archiving, email archiving with Symantec.
Commissioner, if you jump down to 334, is that?
Yeah, I
oh,
thought
okay,
he had
okay.
gone there,
Oh,
yeah.
sorry, I'm
he-
sorry.
Mhm.
Excuse me, okay, Darren, so
Yeah.
explain 334.
334 involves the enterprise agreement with Microsoft, and 350 different Windows licenses, and I'll allude to part of that in 709. We're trying to get part of the problem is we've got 300 different machines that are still Windows XP. Microsoft's notified us that as of April of next year, they're no longer going to support XP, which means no security patches, no software upgrades, nothing. So we would have 300 essentially wide open machines that would be easily attackable, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Microsoft has told us that closing off or making XP end of life, they're not going to push out any automatic updates, nothing. So we're having to replace those 300 machines. In doing so, we're adding 350 those operating system licenses to our enterprise agreement, so that should upgrades become available over the next year, 2 years, 5 years, whenever Microsoft decides to throw out a new Windows 9 or Windows 10, we would be able to pull those licenses without having to buy a whole new operating system. Adding them to our software agreement, we get those updates.
Well, explain something to me, and the way you're talking there, you're talking about internet security, basically. Why would our sensitive data that we're storing, why would we store that on an internet line? I mean, do we not have the capacity with this new building in Smyrna to store this stuff off the internet in our own archives with our own?
What he was referring to just then are the desktop PCs themselves.
I understand that.
And wherever the data is stored and however security is, you still have an employee sitting there entering passwords and working on a machine day in and day out, that if it crashes, their ability to do their job is compromised. Is that
And the data that sits on that machine, while it may not be sensitive data, like, database information, that machine has access to that data. So if, somebody comes in and there's a known bug in Windows XP that a hacker has found a way to get into and monopolize or utilize that machine for other things, for tunneling or whatever, Microsoft normally puts that in their automatic updates to fix that hole or plug that hole, fix that bug, whatever, that exploit. And if they're no longer able to, if they're saying they're not going to do that anymore with XP, that means any future holes that might be found would be exploitable.
Well, you've explained to me about the PCs, but what about our storage facility in Smyrna? Is it also at risk? Are you paying maintenance agreements on it for
Yes.
security also?
yes.
Because it's accessible through the internet?
Well, no, it's not accessible through the internet.
The one in Smyrna is not.
Not sure I follow, Commissioner.
Well, I don't know, maybe I need to come by and talk to you a little bit more.
PCs are on the internet, and those PCs can also access that data.
Yes.
So inadvertently, it's all interconnected.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
And so if that bug gets in that computer, then like you said, it goes through that other channel into the database. You can pull it back to the PC and transfer it right back out. So it kind of is on the internet, or at least there is a chain of connection all the way through.
That's accurate. That's accurate. And I guess
In a very layman's term, because I know very little about computers.
yes, and I guess, and I'm happy to meet. We're happy to meet with you. We're stopping short here of giving a comprehensive review of exactly how our security
Well,
security
and I
system
don't want
works.
that, and I understand, and so I'll wait for my questions. But-
Sure. Come see
But it
us.
just concerns me that, if we've got a secure place and, we're having to pay a maintenance agreement to keep it somebody from the internet accessing it. That bothers me.
I see. Well, the $50,000 maintenance that was mentioned for that storage array is not regarding security. That is maintenance on the device itself to make sure that it is 100% available to do its job. So that has more to do with that than it does security.
So that's going to be an ongoing $50,000 a year cost?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Welcome to the computer world.
Yeah, it's
You buy a
primarily
product,
hardware.
then you gotta buy a
maintenance.
license to utilize the process. You gotta pay a maintenance agreement to keep the process up and going.
And
Piece
when
of
they
paper's looking
come up with
mighty
something
good,
new,
man.
you gotta be prepared
And
for it.
then they make it obsolete, you gotta go buy
Yeah.
something new, you know. That's why Bill Gates is the richest man, one of the richest men in the world.
Right.
We've put a lot of eggs in that basket, and we had sticker shock as well, but that seems to be the cost of doing business in the way that we're doing it, and so we're paying somewhat of a premium to make certain that our data is secure and redundantly available should something happen to the courthouse.
Well, after asking all these questions, I do want to say this. I've worked with Brian on other projects, and I know that he's thorough about what he's doing and diligent and trying to save us money. So, that's not my point. I'm just, it's shocking me that,
Yes.
Well, the sticker price or whatever.
Commissioner Shaper, were those all your line item questions?
They cover them all.
Okay.
Thank you.
We should still draw your attention, however, to line item 709, data processing equipment, which we are requesting go from 485,000 amended, yes, it was amended, to 707,000. Darren, would you like to
Sure.
work through that pretty quickly?
A big chunk of that is the 300 PCs that we're going to have to replace because of, we still have approximately 300 machines that are 8 to 9 to 10 years old running XP that we've actually upgraded to XP over the years. And they will not physically run Windows 7 or Windows 8. They just don't have the processing capabilities to do that. Another thing that we've got on there is $25,000 for countywide server replacement. We typically try to replace the oldest server in the county, which is usually 5, 6, 8 years old. We have security camera expansion by adding a second recorder to our security camera system. That's going to allow us to do the next item, which would be add security camera coverage for Old Health Department, the Goldsteins building, and finish 319 North Maple. We've got $30,000 in there for the phone system expansion, possibly adding on, as you know, each year we've slowly but surely added onto our existing Cisco phone system. And we're looking at possibly adding on the Old Health Department, the 3 offices there, and then possibly however much we can get for the $30,000, add another department or so. Our main database server, that's the $25,000, is also added in for that. Main database server houses 15 different databases for 15 different departments. It is 7 years old and running an older 2008 version of SQL, which is our database software. We're hopeful to be able to replace that before end of life, which will allow us to actually move up a notch on our database serving to the different departments that it has as their databases. The next item is the next big ticket item on there, the Cisco core switch replacement. Our current main switch in the courthouse, our core, which every department, every switch in the county funnels through to connect to everything else, will be at end of life September 30th of this year. I'm sorry, of 2014. Yeah. If we purchase it next year, it will take approximately 6 to 8 months to get it configured and put in place. It's that integral to everybody's data or everybody's use. So if we purchase it next year, we would need to purchase it by sometime around Christmas to be able to have it in place before the current one runs end of life and there's no more support for it.
If that switch dies, the entire county infrastructure goes out. Now, by adding this second core switch, that doesn't mean that we're throwing the old one away. That just means that now we have redundancy. The old one, if something happens to the new one, you know, lightning strike, whatever, we still have the old one sitting there in reserve that we can plug back in and get by. So this is a lot for disaster recovery, but mostly it's for the fact that there won't be any more software updates, no more iOS updates for that original core switch after September 30th of 14.
So we believe these things are necessary to continue to be able to serve our clients, which are primarily the county departments across the county, some 35 or so. You know, looking back historically, we went from a bunch of dumb terminals to a network-centric, PC-based infrastructure, and now we're really, if you want to call it the county cloud, if you want to call it virtualization, whatever catch term you might use, this really does allow us to be dynamically responsive to the various needs of our departments as their needs come and go. It's really a shift to a service-based architecture and kind of unshackles us from this, from our little data center downstairs, from the physical maintenance of effort that's required to keep the gear operational, and hopefully liberates us and our various departments to focus more on service delivery and less on fiscal plan. A good example of a project in that regard is the circuit court clerk's efforts to move from basically dumb terminal environment to a more dynamic justice system, courts management system, and the Register of Deeds efforts to virtualize records and our effort to support that move from physical documents to virtual documents and that's a lot of big data, and we're the ones that try to accommodate that.
So we're working our way into a corner.
Sounds to me
Yes.
like it's a tail wagging the dog, because this is just going to be continual every,
gonna be
move
continual.
up into the future years.
That is the future.
Yeah.
It is. We do have a bit of offsetting revenue. Community care nursing home contributes $12,000 annually. Back to GIS, we receive. I always like to mention that we receive $50,000 from the Rutherford County Emergency Communications District 911 board, $50,000 from Consolidated Utility District. We sold $12,455 worth of GIS data this past year, which is up a little bit. We have contributions to our collective GIS software agreements from municipalities totaling right at $100,000. And if we spend exactly the $400,000 that we budgeted for GIS data this next year, then we would receive $116,000 from the city of Murfreesboro as their shared contribution to our collective GIS efforts. I always point out at this time that Comcast franchise fees, which may or may not otherwise be really presented, I believe we project that a $25,000 increase to that, which puts that at $775,000. The cost to run our channel is $147,900. So I usually cover that. I don't know if I can claim the whole $775,000 as revenue, but I think it bears mentioning nevertheless. I think that's all I needed to mention.
We forgot our iPads.
iPads.
Savings on paper there, supposedly.
Supposedly, yes. Yes.
So the finance department's paper.
Okay, your paper, all right.
I make a motion to approve his budget.
Commissioner Jernigan, thank you.
Second the motion.
seconded by Commissioner Sandlin.
Tempted to ask how much we have to raise this budget to get rid of the iPad, but I guess I'll live with it.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Thank you very much.
We talked about putting the budgets on this year on the iPad,
Barbara,
but decided y'all didn't want to.
you was excellent.
Thank you for not putting the budget on the
I
iPad.
appreciate your help with that.
We spend all our time looking for it, we don't even know what we're talking about, we can't find it.
I do too.
Well, for this especially.
Gentlemen, we
That-
have a request under other business. Mrs. Allen, Susan Allen from the Rutherford Neighborhood Alliance would like to present a proposal from her organization. Do I hear any objection from any member of the committee to give her a few minutes to make a short presentation? Okay, I will allow her then to be part of our agenda. I will ask that this be for discussion, for no discussion whatsoever, and that there will be no action taken. This is for information only. And Mrs. Allen has agreed to 3 to 5 minutes? Yes.
If she's coming up, can I ask a question on that revenue that OIT and information technology brings in? Is that in essence, most of that revenue is gonna subtract from their budget? It's gonna?
It's included in the revenue budget.
It's already in
Okay,
there.
it's all right.
All the numbers you, summarized numbers, it's already in there.
Okay.
Mrs. Allen, I don't know if I'm the only one. I did not get my packet until today, so I don't know
Well,
if we have.
I don't expect everyone to have studied it.
So, I was gonna say, just assume that we have not seen it. Is that
Right,
the way
I
you
put
would
it in
present?
everyone's mailbox yesterday, so. And I appreciate having this opportunity, a few minutes of your time, to introduce the in-house attorney study that the RNA has been working on for about the last 6 months. Our intent was to address many of the concerns that were voiced by commissioners when this was brought up last year. We conducted interviews with several department heads as well as the mayor, and I must say we came away from each interview with a greater understanding and appreciation of what our county employees and department heads do and the complexity of the job. The depth of knowledge of these people was truly impressive. And for as long as we've been following county government, getting into the department and talking to those leaders was eye-opening, just awesome. We also appreciate that this is a very tough budget year for you, and to adequately fund all of the services that our ever-growing population expects. Every commissioner was given a copy of our white paper, and the focus of which was to show the financial advantages of having an in-house attorney and legal department that serves only the county. It's lengthy, and we hope detailed enough for you to see where there are considerable tax savings that can be achieved after the initial transition period, when the in-house attorney will start as the Cope Law Firm finishes its services under the legal services agreement agreed to last year. Finishes the legal services agreement in 2014. And we'd appreciate if you'd take the time to look it over and consider funding an in-house attorney transition period in this year's budget. A 6-month transition period would need to start next January, so the new department could be fully functional on July 1st, 2014, at the end of the current legal services agreement. If the funds are approved for the coming year's budget, then the full commission can decide if that money should be used to start the process. Thank you. And we really would appreciate hearing from you, any questions, so that we can answer them or get more information. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Gentlemen, if you will notice, we're going to be spending a little bit of time together next week. We have a meeting on Monday here at 5:30, a joint meeting with the Health and Education Committee at the school board office on Tuesday at 5:30, and then back here Wednesday at 5:30. Is there anything else?
Mr. Cope may have a few remarks he'd like to say. I don't know if you can,
Yeah,
He
if
would be
that's
allowed.
appropriate, Madam
Sure,
Chairman.
Mr. Coe.
Just a couple of things in response to Ms. Allen, and a couple of thoughts I had. First of all, I was not aware that a study was being done by her, but having said that, certainly Ms. Allen's entitled to do her study, and I hope the information will be good. I haven't been presented a copy of it either, so I don't know what it contains, and I don't know what it's based on, other than what I read in the newspaper, certainly, but we look forward to reviewing the study. The two thoughts I have, one is, or actually three thoughts. I think this was fully vetted and discussed last year at length. We can bring the tapes back up, we can bring the minutes back up, you can look at all of that material that was said. I'll be interested to see if anything new is revealed as a result of that. Secondly, I feel confident that based on what we agreed to last year with the county, that we reached a conclusion that I think was satisfactory to the county in terms of the expense and the cost of providing those legal services. And I think they are very cost-effective, economically sensitive, and responsive to the county's needs. And I think you'll continue to find that. Thirdly, I think that you will find that the legal services that we provide, we at least believe are highly effective, highly efficient, and quite beneficial to the county. That can be debated. That's for you all to decide, and those that are in the seats of decision making. But we hope to be able to continue to do the work that we've been doing. I guess the other big concern, just from 30,000 feet looking down, you know, this is a tough budget year. And with all due respect to Ms. Allen, anytime you create another department, you can say that you don't think it's going to run and grow and become larger and more expensive. But I think the wisdom of government tells us sometimes that once you start little with a small snowball, it rolls downhill and it keeps growing and growing and growing, and the costs keep expanding. And I think that given the way your legal services are handled, they're tax effective and cost effective for the citizens of Rutherford County. I don't think the citizens of Rutherford County want more government employees, want bigger government departments, and want more staffing to do that. It might start small, but it's going to grow. The final thing I want to say is, not having seen a report just based on what was in the newspaper, I know that at least part of it is factually inaccurate. Ms. Allen reports that there are 2 employees of the county legal department, myself and one other, Ms. Larkins, and that the county's bearing that cost. That's not accurate. We, as agreed with you all last year, are paying 75% back to the county of Ms. Larkins' salary. So we really don't have but one employee, and that's me, at the stated rate I've been given, and then 25% of Ms. Larkins' salary. So again, as you look at this report, I just ask you to judge it in light of your experience and what you've seen. I'm sure the mayor can comment on it, and others that we work for, and department heads and stuff. I would welcome you to contact those department heads, ask them the quality of the legal services they're receiving, whether they're responsive to their needs from a litigation standpoint, as well as just daily advice. So again, I certainly appreciate this opportunity to address you, and if there are questions as we go forward, I'll be happy to try to answer them. So thank you.
Gentlemen, is there any other business that needs to come before our committee? Commissioner Schaefer.
Right now, Riverdale is playing Tullahoma baseball at on Warrior Drive, and this is for placement into the sectionals. Who gets it home? It just started in Smyrna, Riverdale and Smyrna in softball for the same thing, and tomorrow night, Laverne is the soccer regional championship between Smyrna and Laverne. They're meeting for the second time in what, a week? And it again is for who gets the home field advantage in the sectionals. And the winner of the sectionals goes to the state. So, I just want to
Gentlemen,
bring that
anything
up.
else that needs to come before our committee? Thank you, gentlemen. We are adjourned.